Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation. Justin Fields, Russell Wilson impressed literally nobody during their second preseason game. And outside of one wild pass by Justin Fields that was nearly intercepted, it has been nothing but critiques of how bad both were and how much trouble the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation is. I dove into this very heavy yesterday in the recap, the live stream of the game. Let me ask you, because you were not there and everybody missed you, what was your thoughts? What were your thoughts on both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields? And do you think either of them had a better game against the Bills?
That's a hard one. I mean, I think both of them struggled mightily. And I think really it's the whole offense. It wasn't all on the quarterbacks. It wasn't all on the offensive line. I think it was a combination of all the factors that played into the Steelers looking really bad offensively for a second straight preseason game. But again, the important thing there is preseason game. They're still 0-0 in 2024, and that's the important thing. And they're still trying to get up under speed. But I think when I looked at both of them, Russell Wilson just was never able to get his feet underneath him in that game. And it's his first live action since last season when he was benched in Denver. Meanwhile, Justin Fields, I don't think he played particularly well either. But the one thing you can say is Justin Fields does have his legs and he can make electrifying plays on the ground and especially off schedule as well, which is the only positives that I saw. And at the end of the day, that's not a good thing. Like, yes, it's good that he can do that. We knew he could do that. It's not a good sign for the offense when the only thing going for you is one man's athleticism. And at the end of the day, you ran out of luck. 4th and 2, what happens? He tries the read option and you lose on a crucial down. That's because you can't really rely on one man's athleticism to win you football games on the offensive side of the ball. So I think if either of them had a better game, it's Justin Fields. But I think both of them at the end of the day just did not have a good performance on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the wild part is where we are. Daily Cat jumping into the podcast here. We got to figure this out. I don't know how to figure it out, but we got to figure it out. I think the justification for Justin Fields right now is terrible, and I'm making it, and I will continue to make it, because the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line is so bad right now that it's maybe better to have a quarterback who could make something out of nothing than it is to have the quarterback that's not going to turn the ball over more. And that stinks. And I think it comes down to, what does Russell Wilson look like with a better offensive line? And how quickly can this offensive line improve? And I think that there are ways to improve it. Like, I don't really fall to the Broderick's playing on the right side, and that's the issue here. Broderick's hurt. That's the issue here. But I do think getting him on the left side helps. And I do think that allows him to work on footwork and the rest of the technical stuff that he is struggling with outside of his punch, because there's no punch because he won't extend his arm because of his elbow. Outside of his punch, I think you could work on the rest of it and develop a little bit more. And to be honest with you, I could care less if the Steelers' offensive line gets a little bit worse by doing that. And maybe you have to start Dan Moore on the right side, because quite frankly, it's hard to get worse than they were the other day. At the same time, I think Zach Frazier helps the more he plays. And I hope that Isaac Seumalo is looking at it and saying, I'm 32. I've been to a Super Bowl or two. I could care less about the preseason, and that's why I stink. James Daniels hopefully is the same way. But if those guys improve, I want to see what Russ could do with an offense, because there are a couple of things here. Like, Arthur Smith didn't have a good day. Didn't have a good day at all against Buffalo. But I don't think Arthur Smith is a bad offensive coach. I think he's a really good offensive coach, one that can improve and draw guys open. And I think Russell Wilson is the more capable of the two quarterbacks. But I don't think anybody's capable in front of this offensive line that we've seen through 2 preseason games. And that's not going to improve. It sucks, but you got to put the improvising quarterback in there, and that's Justin Fields. I will say this. There's a lot of people who are freaking out. I mean, Stephen Smith, or it was Shannon Sharp. I don't know if you saw that yesterday. Was like, the Steelers would be lucky to go 2-15. I was like, dude, come on. Like, the Steelers are at their worst. We're not 2-15. I mean, people got to remember that a couple of years ago, the Steelers offensive line, this offensive line currently for the Steelers would make that offensive line look like a JV team, like a real one, not a Mike Tomlin JV team, a real JV team. So I don't know who's winning this quarterback competition. I don't know who the better option is. I do agree both of them stunk. And because of that, you have to go into this third game. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have a different opinion here. But in my opinion, you go into this third game as open-minded as humanly possible and just say, okay, this is our offense. This is our starting offense. I don't think the Steelers have room to do a walkthrough where there's no there's all backups. I don't think they have room for that. I think they have to play the full first half with their starting offense and play both quarterbacks and say, okay, who looked better with this offense? And that's the quarterback for week 1, because at this point, I don't think it's Russ or Justin Fields. Neither of them look great. The 4th and 2 read option stunk, but at the same time, you go back and look at that. He hands it off. That's a touchdown, but he did a little bit play that ball right. That the defensive end or the edge rusher, whoever that was standing there, he collapsed, and they reacted very well to get him. But in the moment, I would imagine that moves 10 times faster than we're able to watch it, and therefore you can make the justification that he should have kept that ball. That being said, I think that you have to go into this, and again, maybe you have a different opinion, completely open-minded, let everybody see what happens, and then go into the offense or go into the season with whoever plays better, because I don't think this is just a quarterback situation. I think it's an offensive situation. Let's talk about game time. I could still taste the popcorn and the soda and smell the beer of my first Pittsburgh Steelers game. And yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars might have won that day, but I will never forget how loud Heinz Field was and how rocking that stadium was on the North Shore. Game Time has this new feature called Game Time Picks that makes things like getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I have an upcoming concert in Cleveland the day after the Pittsburgh Steelers play against the Browns, and instead of sitting there clicking on every single section, I'm just going to use Game Time Picks. Let's talk about why it's so great. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. On top of that, you get all-in pricing, which means that you get the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. On top of that, you get seat views, because nobody wants to buy some nosebleed seats for cheap and take a guess on whether you're staring at a pole or you just got the greatest deal in the entire venue. Plus, the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage means that your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, low prices, guaranteed.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is going to be, obviously you talked ad nauseum there and at length, and you did yesterday too, about the offensive line. It's something that, they haven't had a lot of reps together because, one, you saw who was starting at center at the beginning of camp. You saw that Troy Fautanu was also a backup at the start of camp, and then he wasn't in there. And this one, there's been a lot of moving pieces, and it doesn't take 2 days for an offensive line to gel. It takes multiple weeks. And a lot of these guys, before camp even started, hadn't played an actual competitive snap next to each other. So it's going to take time for that offensive line to gel. You're going to have to deal with that going into the regular season. You expect it to be better than the level that we saw this weekend. But at the same time, it's going to take time before it is exactly what everybody expected it to be, what you would hope it would be whenever the Steelers spend that much and invest that much in the offensive line. But the important question then becomes, who do you put behind them, and how do you judge who's in there? Because it's not going to be much better next week. I wouldn't envision the Steelers offensive line comes out and just absolutely demolishes the Detroit Lions on the road in preseason week 3. So you have to kind of take that into account whenever you're judging these quarterbacks. It's just a very difficult situation because Russell Wilson got 4 drives after having 1 full week of practice, if that. Are you really going to make a decision based on that? Or are you going to go with the guy in Justin Fields who has been there the whole time and has kind of showed you some upside, but at the same time still has plenty of question marks? It is not an enviable position for Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I think you have to go in, like you mentioned, with an open mind on Saturday, because neither of them have really showed you that they deserve to be starting whenever they pull up into Atlanta on Monday or on Sunday afternoon in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing is that it was Russ's job to lose, And I honestly think he lost it. I don't think that he's not the starting quarterback right now, but I don't believe that. I believe that Russ went from pole position to even, and Justin went from losing to even. And it was probably more Russ than it was Justin, but that's where the Steelers stand. What do I expect to happen this week? Shout out the cat one more time here. I just don't even. I don't have an answer here. What do I expect to happen this week? I look at the Steelers situation, and I still believe Russell Wilson will get a majority of the first team reps. That's what I anticipate happening in practice. Now, what they should do is they should completely split them even. And I'm not talking you take one, I'll take the next. I'm talking you get a series, I get a series. You get a series, I get a series. All with the first team. I could care less about backups right now. I could care less about who's making the 53-man roster as the 53rd guy. Do not care whatsoever. If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, this next week is only about figuring out whether or not it's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. That should be the only thing the Steelers are concerned with whatsoever. And I think the only way to do that is to rep your guys as much as you possibly can and give everybody even reps and see what happens. And I don't think it should be you take two, I'll take two, you take two, I'll take two. Oh, we get one drive, which means we both got 4 plays. No, you should be each by the end of practice 15 plus plays deep in team series and moving forward. It should be no second team, no nothing. All starters. I don't care how tired Isaac is. I don't care how tired James Daniels are. They stink right now, and therefore you gotta play them. And when it comes to Broderick Jones, there's a lot of questions about it. When it comes to the situation there, I think you shut him down right now and you let him heal. And then when he comes back, whether that's week 1 or week 2 or whenever, you stick him at left tackle and you don't think twice about it. There's no more of this, because that's the thing. Mike Tomlin, his stubbornness is the reason that he is borderline losing his legacy in the NFL year after year. And he has to learn that, this is an opportunity to really formulate this guy, and I'm screwing it up. So let's stop screwing it up. That's where we stand. Do you expect anything different in practice?
No, I think when you look at what's going on here, I do think that Russell Wilson's going to get more of the reps, because I think that Mike Tomlin is going to sit there and say, he had pole position. He still has pole position, and one game where nobody looked good is not going to change it. So I agree. I think it's going to be Russell Wilson who gets the first opportunity. Justin Fields said it after the game. He said, I just got to put the ball in the end zone. And if I do that, I'll get opportunities. And he hasn't done that yet. The first team offense hasn't done that yet. The only quarterback that's led the team to a touchdown has been Kyle Allen. And that is a horrible thing to say through 2 preseason games. But again, preseason games, there's that asterisk. That's part of everything we've talked about so far, what we've seen from them.
Yes. At the end of the day, it is very important to remember that last year we were fooled into believing that the Pittsburgh Steelers could smoke the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. And they did not. So this year, please take it the other way around and realize that, there are some issues, some pretty big ones. But anybody who's sitting around saying this team's done and the losing streak and blah, 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 and they're already given up, first off, remember it when they're good in week 2 or week 3, if they are. And second off, understand that the roller coaster of the preseason is wild and doesn't add up almost all of the time. So understand that. Go ask a Browns fan. They've been preseason Super Bowl winners for years, and they've finished below the Steelers most of those years. So that's where we currently stand.